This is the origin of 5eed1ab. The seeds that changed everything. A tomato has over 100 seeds, potential for over 100 plants, each having 20 to 200 tomatoes depending on the variety. I was cleaning up a rotten tomato. There happened to be 10 small pots filled with soil on my counter. Convenience and curiosity took hold, and I placed a seed in each pot. 9 of them sprouted. As they grew, I transplanted them into grow bags. When it was warm enough, they went. They got moved outside. These are cool little breathable planter containers. The the plants really thrive in them. The roots get lots of oxygen. Next, after that, I was working on a workshop doing containers. It was about 4 years ago. I was trying to think up of a way to kind of personalize the concepts of containers, and then this Johnny seed catalog dropped in the mail. Started thumbing through it, and then it hit me. Seeds are like images. This catalog is like a repository. So, the catalog or repository lists all the seeds or images you might want to use. The seeds images include everything required to grow what's contained in them. The seeds or the images need a container and resources to sprout and grow. The Docker file or DNA are all the instructions that create the seed or the image. Why Practical Cat? What is Practical Cat? Practical Cat's a workshop I've been putting together as I dive into learning C, so I really understand how computer really works at that level. As I was putting it together, I kind of discovered it's not really a good starting point, so I kind of backed up to a 5eed1ab to explain some of this. A lot of great information on here, but then figured I'd step back even further and start from here. So, and why Practical Cat again? Well, cats are curious. Kind of started when my daughter came to get her cat Messy Face. She asked me what kind of cat I wanted. Told her all black, long hair, and cuddly. She showed up with Kronos. He was the best cat, really. But after he passed away, I wasn't interested in replacing him. When he came to Kansas, I brought him with me imprisoned in the Tartarus. Every year I grew a sunflower from the seed of the previous sunflower in the same container. Weeks after moving, a kitty walked up to me. She followed me inside. Not my cat, but I fed her. Might as well call her Hera, offspring of Kronos. As Hera ran inside, I noticed an unusual shadow pass by. They named the shadow Hades, kind of a short haired version of Kronos. Nothing to fear from this one, he's a cuddly bug. Time to stop with the Greek god names. Hades got hit by a car. I was distraught. He ended up joining Kronos in the Tartarus. Again, with the Greek god names, Hera, goddess of motherhood, gave birth on the pink moon. Pink and moon. Something special being present since birth. Yin is dark, calm, soft. Yang is bright, active, and hard. They need each other to exist. You can't know light without dark. Everything contains the seed of its opposite and can change into it over time. The two forces flow and push into each other smoothly rather than fighting. Each yin contains a seed of the yang. Every yang contains a seed of the yin. Added chickens to the mix. I had watched the pecking order constantly change. Hades took advantage of a lap to sit on. Ended up getting a puppy. Peaches forced me into learning discipline, repeating patterns of behavior with no exceptions until she got it. This isn't curiosity like what you see with Hades, but we discovered a routine that works for all. Peaches hangs out in the house during the day when the chickens are out. Once the chickens are in the coop at night, she patrols the backyard, keeping predators at bay. Why does the adorable yellow chick deliberately peck at the eyes of all the others? Meet Rue. Testosterone is strong with this one. What came first, chicken or egg? What I know is this hen came from an egg that came from one of the first chicks. This Rue is letting everyone know there's a kite circling above. Broody mama, hoping for third generation chicks to arrive soon. Moving to Saline County allowed me time to participate more in my food source. If you're curious, here's a playlist of a bunch of drone flights of the area here. Eggs and veggies from my backyard, dairy and beef directly from a farm nearby. Seed Lab. Seed Lab is a workshop I'm developing to help me understand the next layer of how computers work. That would be learning C. Why the funny spelling? Seed Lab doesn't work in hexadecimal. I like to make up MAC addresses for my virtual machines, like Seed Lab B A1. Seed Lab is the domain, B is the network, A1's the host. That way you could run ARP command, and because you've made up your MAC addresses in an environment that doesn't have dynamic DNS or reverse DNS lookup, you could still know which host is which IP. Here's one of my old videos. Let's see. And so here's so on these virtual machines. I like to create my own MAC addresses so I can find them. This is cat 8 food and FreeBSD1. Something I discovered over 10 years ago. Learning a virtualization API for Kubernetes. I recently discovered there's this KubeVirt that I'm interested in learning. Created a little issue to start collecting information on what it'll take to ramp up on that. Should I jump ahead? Replace the CPU in my S30, installing an operating system, setting up OKD, the community distribution of Kubernetes that powers Red Hat's OpenShift. Also, I could get KubeVirt working to build a Gutenberg Git TVM, We'll get more into that in a future video. Here's a hardware parts list I think is required to get OKD set up. I already have this S30 ThinkStation. It was released in 2012, well over $1,000. Now you can pick them up for $150. It only has a 4-core proc in it. So here's a Xeon with 12 cores. Hyper-threaded gives you 24. It came out a little later in 2013, well over $2,000. I just bought one for less than $20. Should be arriving next week. Here's a drive cage. Mine is a little older and has a Molex adapter, so the S30 doesn't have Molex power, so we'll have to get that adapter. OKD or OpenShift, the documentation spells out you need 3 compute nodes and 2 worker nodes, so here's a lot of 5. When they were released in 2006, they're $150 a pop. Now you could get 5 of them for $30. I have way more than 5 of them. I also have a bunch of SSDs, but I think I'll start with slower disks, figure out performance on those, and then migrate them to SSDs. Of course, you'll need drive SATA cables. I'll be using Hyper-V Server, a free download that runs strictly as a command line and server core. No desktop GUI. This standard edition here can be installed with a 4 desktop experience. I've already got one of these. When they were released back in 2012, they were well over $2,000. Can't remember what I paid for mine, but you could pick up a used one for $35. And of course, we'll need 64 gig of RAM. I just pulled a bunch from my 2012 Mac Pro. So you're into about $500 with tax after doing all this, but I think this is enough to get OKT up and going. I will need another host for a worker node that does kubevert and stands up the VMs. I'd like one of these little ThinkStation Tinies if anyone has one to contribute. Set it right up there on my S30 machine. Fraction of the size. While we're waiting for the CPU, we'll get into where I thought I was going to start with this whole project. A pull request where I create a new Windows profile on my ThinkPad, setting up a GitHub account and a Red Hat account so we could configure WSL. Think that initial one I'll just stick to a hello world. But it'll eventually lead to this fun little bit of C code that kind of shows off what a character is. An alphabet with an array, doing an alphabet with just iterating over the character. A little demonstration of floating point versus an int. Finding the max of what an int can do. Then a little odometer is a fun little way to see what happens at the binary level. But that's all for a future video. See you then.